So here's an article that I think just the very article itself, what the person is advocating for, is wrong, is the wrong way to look at things. Or rather, a way that I'm not necessarily a fan of, we can say. But the article says, this is from The Guardian, the World Chess Championship is thrilling, but where are the women? The focus on male stars such as Magnus Carlsen obscures the brilliance of female chess players. It's time to raise their profile. It looks like there's a picture of a guy, I guess an American and a Norwegian guy playing chess. This is the year that I, a lapsed chess fan, rediscovered my love for the game. You can't fault my timing for 2018's World Chess Championship match between defending Magnus Carl and the challenger Fabiano Caruana. Sorry. That's the American guy. I still can't pronounce his name. Is shaping up to be a close one, yet my excitement, yes, chess can be exciting, is somewhat dulled by the continued lack of female representation at the World Championship. The tournament is technically open to all, but not once in its 132-year history has the competition been won by a woman, though Judith Polgar competed in 2005. So the article goes down. I'll briefly touch on a bit more of those things, but the whole article is down to, why aren't women represented in chess? We should have more women represented in chess. And my issue with the article is the idea that needs to be fixed, and I can entertain the idea that it should be fixed, but I have yet to see an explanation as to why it should be fixed. Because generally, I mean, I'm of the opinion that I want the best people in the positions of whatever they want to go for. Like if there's an engineering position, I want the best engineer to get that position. If there's someone playing football, like I want the best possible football player to be in that position, or whatever position he would be best at within his team. If someone is doing whatever, like if someone is a neuroscientist, I want to be the best neuroscientist in that position. So it's the kind of thing like when people are playing chess, I want the best person in that position. And other than that, I don't really care. Like, I think it's interesting to look at some of the trends, but as long as the system is fair, and as long as the system isn't blocking anyone for any reason besides skill in that particular field, I have no issue with that whatsoever. And now, if you want to see more women in chess, I have nothing against people wanting to see that. But then it comes to, the whole battle between that seems to be the biggest thing to shoot for. We want more women in chess, therefore we are willing to twist we are willing to sacrifice skill level to get more women in chess. And this is a topic that I've read probably 15 different books that have all referenced this fact about chess, that women are not represented in chess pretty much at all. It's something again, as they said right there, 132-year history of the competition, and not one woman has won it. And that's not to say that women are inferior. That's not to say that women are somehow worse than men in some objective manner, because once you start taking things like that, it's just a stupid way of thinking. It's a stupid collectivist way of thinking that once you assume that, once you assume that two groups are different, that somehow that difference is a moral issue. That's the stupid thing that Thomas Sowell addresses very well in Civil Rights, Rhetoric or Reality. It's a very short book, I recommend. But this article is it's making the assumption that this is something that needs fixed, and I fail to see why. It turns out that people are different, and in this case, the people that are best at chess turn out to be mostly men, and it's just a fact of reality. It's one of those things like nurses, for example. Nurses are disproportionately women. It's not a bad thing. That's not a good thing. It just is. And I don't I work with nurses all the time. That's part of my job, is to work with nurses on a daily basis. And I'm not complaining that they're mostly women. That doesn't it's just a neutral thing to me. It's just oh, okay. Okay, they're apparently the people that wanted that job, and they're apparently the people that are best for that job. So if that's the case, then okay. I don't know what to say. But they go into, so why aren't women qualifying? Many have turned to pseudo-scientific arguments about the fundamental differences between the male and female brain, which is odd because that's pretty much established science, that there are differences between a male and female brain. That's something that nobody, very few people are even debating now, because except when it comes to neuroscience and certain topics like this, there's kind of a gap between what is established in the scientific community and what the common people understand, the people that aren't experts. And I do my best to kind of bridge that gap and to really start reading the complicated stuff and not the layman's term stuff. I'll admit, when it comes to neuroscience, I'm not much of an expert, but as far as I can tell, not much of an expert. I'm not an expert at all, but from what I've read, this is like well been established. This is something I've heard numerous neuroscientists and all kinds of scientists saying, yes, this is like common knowledge in the field that men and women have different brains. That if you were to scan someone's brain, you can tell which one is, like, you can tell whether that person's brain is male or female. You can tell whether that person is male or female just by the brain scans. Of course, there are certain exceptions. Of course, they're all like trends. But it's something that you can make an educated guess and you'll most likely be right, that kind of thing. But that's true. Like, there are fundamental differences in the brain. And what they have found is, now, I will push back a little bit in what I'm saying. It seems that some people really exaggerate how much of what I'm about to say is true. It's more of a small difference. It's not like some people play it out to be like, oh, it's a major difference. It's a small difference, but when you look at the distribution of, like, women and men when it comes to certain, like, mathematical, like, engineering, that kind of mathematical, like, understanding and the ability to do, like, mathematical intelligence, I guess you can call it. When you look at like male and female distributions, generally men are much more broad. Again, much more. They are slightly more spread out, and women are much more around the average. Again, I keep saying much more, but generally around the average. Now, again, like people have been saying this is a major thing, but it's actually a small thing that can have major repercussions. Not repercussions, but major noticeable differences as you get further to the extremes. So, for example, like when people look at reality, we can look for realistic proof of this. We can see that the chess example, which every time I see someone talk about this, they reference chess. Chess requires a lot of like a very mathematical skill that I generally don't have much of, but they'll see that the field of chess, as far as we can tell, is perfectly open to women. Like, anyone can play. There is no there is no institutional power that puts down some players over others. It's all down to, if you win, you rise up. If you lose, you don't do as well. Like, that's just how chess works. And it's generally a very fair system. But you'll find that women are not in it at all. Like, actually, again, I'm saying very general assumptions, but you'll find that women generally aren't in chess. There are some women in chess, and there are some women that are really good at chess, and no doubt there are tens of, in fact, hundreds of thousands of women that can probably beat me in chess. But looking at this, generally you'll find that the people at the very top are all men, because they are at the extremes. Like, you'll find that people on the extremes of, like, mathematical intelligence are the ones winning at chess. And it just so happens that as you take that extreme and make it smaller, so like the people with an IQ above 135 will be disproportionately men. The people with an IQ above 150 will be even more disproportionately men. The people with an IQ of over 170 will be even more, almost entirely men. And that's generally the reason you see this, is because, like, why men are represented in chess, because chess requires a high, like, mathematical, high IQ intelligence thing, and that's what you get. Now, that's, again, people are automatically making the assumption that I'm saying, like, women are inferior. It's like, no, that's not true. That's just, like, it's not a moral issue. It's just a fact of reality, and especially when it comes to IQ, like mathematical intelligence and that kind of stuff. It's it's something to admire when someone is working really hard and studying and practicing, but it's not a virtuous thing to have a high IQ. It's not a moral thing to have. It doesn't make you like genetically superior to have like a super high IQ, and we're talking about the extremes. So I want to put so much emphasis on that because I know people attack me for that. But again, to then address the opposite side, you could, if you were one of these people that are like, oh, it's so unfair that men are disproportionately represented in chess, you could also make the argument that if you are convinced by the if you're not aware of the distribution, that you could say, oh, well, men are disproportionately homeless. Like, homelessness really affects men. One of the funniest things, if you've ever seen it, is an article complaining about how 1 in 4 homeless people are women, and that's somehow a bad thing, that so many women are homeless when it's 1 out of 4. But anyways, the whole point is, like, men, when you look at the people that have, like, severe low IQ, like, intellectual disabilities, to the point where it becomes a disability, they're disproportionately men. Why? Because that's just how it works. Like, it's equal on both sides. And that's not a moral thing. It doesn't mean that, like, men are inferior. It's just, that's a fact of reality. But I want to emphasize that so much and want to really go through all that because people keep saying this stuff. It's like, it doesn't make men. You'll find that I think generally if you take the average, they're like 1 or 2 IQ different, like numbers different. Overall, it's not much of a difference in the center. It's just that when you get to the extremes, you see what happens in chess. that this kind of stuff happens, where you'll have disproportionately men, because that's just how it works. More concerning is the realization that these unproven arguments, which they've been well proven, again, I haven't read people talking about the studies, I've read the studies. And it's something that I don't know why I just sounded a bit like Alex Jones there, but saying I've read the studies. But I actually have read the stuff written by the scientists that do these studies. I read the studies. And it's yeah, that's pretty much the case. What am I saying? The real reason behind the absence of female world champion, however, according to this article, has less to do with crude biological reductionism, which, again, it's not really biological reductionism. Some people might be going that far. But for me, it's yeah, that's a factor that can't be ignored. So if you're expecting a 50% representation, you're not going to get it without making the system very unfair. A recent study has argued that the dearth of women in top chess tournaments is to be expected given the gender disparity and participation at all levels of the game. Now, this seems a bit strange, saying that women are less represented in chess because women are less represented in chess. As far as I can tell, that's what they're trying to say here, is that because there aren't women represented in chess, other women won't join chess. But yeah, I don't see where's the beginning factor here? Where's the thing that starts it all? That doesn't seem the case. That just the variable causes itself, which can happen, but is not the starting reason. The authors analyzed the population of around 120,000 players active in a single country with a ratio of male to female participants of 16-1. Their findings highlighted that 96% of the differences in ability between genders could be explained by the fact that extreme values from a large sample are likely to be far larger than those from a small one. What? Could be explained by the fact that extreme values from a large sample are likely to be far larger than... In other words, there have been more men represented at the World Championship because more men play chess. This in turn means that a higher number of boundary... Oh, I see what they're saying. So more men are interested in chess. Therefore, more men become the top. So, if the amount of people that have an interest in chess is... 80% of those people are men. I'm just picking numbers. But 80% of those people are men, then 80% of people you would think that reach the championships are also men. Yes, I can see that. And that is certainly a factor that plays a role. That... It seems for some reason men are more interested in chess. And again, it's okay. It's just a thing that happens. And it's neither something that needs to be corrected nor something that should be glorified. It just is. If then we want to see a woman win the World Chess Championship, okay, right there. If we want to see a woman win the World Chess Championship, why? I don't care. Now, people are going to be saying, oh, it's because you've been representing, men have won for so long, and you're a man, therefore, it's for that reason you don't see it as an issue. Well, I just never really cared. I just never cared. There's all kinds of things. There's all kinds of so many people I greatly respect that aren't like me in the sense of they're not the same gender or race or whatever, and it's I don't care. One of my favorite authors that I've been reading recently is Thomas Sowell, and dang, people for so long have told me to read his stuff, that it's really good, and I've been oh, I'll get to it, and then I finally got to it, and I'm dang, this is some genius stuff. He might be at the top. He's definitely in the top 5 of my favorite authors, but he might actually be, I've only read 2 of his books, at the moment, but the more I read of his, the more I like him, so it's stuff like that where it's okay, I love what he writes, and that's really all that I care about, is what he says. We must first address the lack of female participation in the game. The reasons behind this are complex and likely manifold, but let us focus here on just one, the lack of prominent female chess players. Again, this seems like a self-defeating argument. For one, there are prominent female chess players. It seems rather insulting to disparage, to attack and say, oh, just ignore all these prominent female chess players. There are plenty of women chess players that are worth admiring, that are very skilled, that, again, could, even if I practiced for months, could easily beat me in chess. But I don't see that as a reason. It goes back to the whole women aren't represented in chess because women aren't represented in chess, which is self-defeating. There are no real female role models. I cannot talk today. There are no real female role models for young girls, even though women have been playing chess for a really long time. There are, of course, female players who have been recognized for outstanding skill. Yes, good for them. Yet these women aren't assigned the same level of importance within chess's historical narrative as men as such Jose Capablanca, Gary Kasparov, Fischer and Carlsen. Well, I know Gary Fischer. Again, I don't pay attention to chess at all, but I know Gary Fischer. I'm pretty sure that's because he's like one of the best of the best. As all the heroes of chess are men, women are taught from an early age to associate good chess with being male. I suppose that's a side effect. I mean, that's something that like you can't really prevent. That if you see a position that, I won't deny that at all. Some people will, but I won't deny that. Like if you see a position and you always see men in that position and no women, then sure, you might create an association. But if you're interested in that position, what you would do is say, why aren't women in that position? And if you're around like people that aren't morons, they will say, it's because just like a woman can do it. They're just disproportionately like not interested, I guess. And that is no reason to not do something. If we have any hope of addressing this, again, why do we want to address this? Why is this an issue? It isn't. It's not. Again, I'm not. Some people even say like, when I say it's not a bad thing, people assume I mean it's a good thing. It's a neutral thing. We need to raise the public profile of female chess players. Okay, good. Like, do it. I have nothing against that. Alongside the news features on Carlsen, we need to run one on How. Why? We need to cover the Women's World Chess Championship with the same fervor as the main World Championship. Or at the very least, we need to, actually cover it. Now, this is something I kind of disagree with, which has been a lot of things when it comes to women's sports. Like, there are certain rules that, like, women's sports has to be equally funded as men's sports in certain, like, college and high school fields, or high schools. There's certain things like that where they have to be equally, like, receive equal pay. They have to pay in terms of funding for the organization. They have to be on TV at the same time. But it all comes down to what works. Like, I think people have to remember that when it comes to the main World Chess Championship, like, why is there a women's one? Honestly, it's probably because they couldn't compete. And that sounds mean, but it's honestly, like, that's just how it is. The reason that there is a Women's World Chess Championship is because if you just get rid of the Women's World Chess Championship and just combine them all into the main World Chess Championship, there still won't be any women. And that just seems to be a fact of life. Again, it's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's neutral. It's the fact of reality. And again, that's coming from someone who is not good at chess at all. So I'm not like trying to say, oh, we men are superior. It's like, no, I suck at chess. I'm interested. I guess I kind of like chess, but I'm not that good at it. But the whole reason this thing isn't run is because it's a profit thing. I imagine, like, it's all down to profits. Because again, the whole like evil corporations are into money and all they care about is profit. For the most part, that's true. All business owners care about is generally making money for that business, growing the business, expanding it. There are certain exceptions. Obviously, like, people that run businesses want their businesses to succeed, and there's philanthropy and all that stuff, and there's good, like, public image kind of stuff. But generally, if one sport or men's sport is covered more than a women's sport, it's generally because it's more profitable. And I can see this considering more men are interested in chess. Therefore, more men are going to be the audience, the target audience for the main World Championship is disproportionately male. Therefore, more men are going to want to watch chess, and that's just how it works, it seems. But it seems like she's trying to address some inequality that I don't think is an issue. And in the sense of it's not so much an inequality as it is just a fact of reality. Like, there's no discrimination going on here. Some women have already made attempts to address the discrepancy in media coverage and to raise the profile of female chess players. Take, for instance, the Chilean chess player and musician Huga, who is currently releasing music exploring her identity and experiences as a woman in chess. By branching out, she's able to boost both her reputation within the traditional community, as well as drawing attention to female players among audiences who have had less exposure to the world of chess tournaments. It seems that this may be just the time to bring about the end game of male-dominated chess. Again, the the end game. All I can say is this is not an issue. It's not like I guarantee. I'm asking someone to tell me why it's a bad thing that men are disproportionately like overrepresented in chess. It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just that's what it is. It's just the way it is. It's because that's what it comes down to. Like if I want the best people to succeed, and the best people seem to be succeeding because the game of chess is rather fair. But I just wanted to like cover that, just try to cover this from as many like angles as I guess that I can. That this is not an issue. And please, if you think it's an issue that people are disproportionate, some groups are disproportionate in some fields, for reasons that are not unfair, like, what's the issue? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.